Not too much on me. Not too much on me. I know. Monica, it's been a while. I know. I've been adulting. The question is, have you seen the state of the nation? Have you been keeping your mental health intact? Because I've been. Nevertheless, welcome to Last Thing I Think with me, your host, Monica Ray, where we discuss all things for the culture, for the kingdom. Because although we're not of this world, say it with me, we're still in it. And the last thing is never the last thing in this raggedy world. Because, child, my gosh, is the Bible not unfolding, unraveling in front of our faces? The girls aren't just at war. The country is. Jesus. But nevertheless, this segment I'm so excited about because it's homecoming season. I've also celebrated a birthday. Whoop, whoop. Another year above the ground and not beneath. So I'm grateful for that. Also, we're going to talk Black Greek letter organizations and the denouncing trend that I'm seeing, which, unbeknownst to many, I'm a fan of. So grab your snacks and let's tune into segment 1, which I like to call For the Culture. Let's go. So it is homecoming season, and I know many of you who probably went to an HBCU or probably follow Black media are familiar with HBCU homecoming season. It is a thing. You might also be familiar with the sentiments or statements from a social media influencer named Ari Fletcher in reference to why are people over 25 going to homecoming? And again, like I said on my TikTok, I don't give everybody the same amount of energy, but I believe that many people share that sentiment, and those same people probably didn't go to HBCU. And so let me just kind of give you the why. Number one, it's in the name, homecoming, right? You're coming home. If you're already at home, there's nowhere to come. So the point is for alum to return. Specifically for HBCUs, it's a great way to bring money and attention back to the institution, because many of us, can't speak for all, are privately funded. We don't get resources from the government. And so because we're private and we need resources in other ways, homecoming is a great way to bring money and ticket sales and bring money to vendors and local businesses, which really just helps our community. Nevertheless, my homecoming experience at the Great Bethune-Cookman University was absolutely phenomenal. It started for me on Thursday, karaoke, baby. Okay, that's when we go in and the saints get to sing it. Now I do a little 1 2 1 2. I don't do it at karaoke because there are times that I want to, and there are other times I'm like, I don't know if I want to. But when I tell you, we went from white chicks song selections to making my way downtown walking fast to How Did You Get Here, a full on a choir BGV set. It was amazing. But it's always good to run into your peers, especially in this day and age, because people are dying. Like Kim, people are dying. Ari, people are dying. Right. And so when it's your people, culturally, but also your peers, it hits differently naturally. And so to come to homecoming and see people alive, well, grown, we got a little bit more money. We've grown into our faces. We've grown into our ears, because we really thought we was fine when we was in college. Child, we was all right. But to really see everybody coming back happy and healthy and still intact is such a blessing. And so as you get older, you don't take that stuff for granted. In fact, we had a fallen wildcat right before homecoming. And so it was really hard for some of my peers because they were expecting that person to be DJing. And so just seeing that and seeing our peers just kind of pass is just really hard, echoing my previous sentiment that homecoming really is a great way to hug necks and love and appreciate on your people. So karaoke is always the time. And, it was just a time. I can't really say more to that. Then it's pep rally. This year was really unique because they were honoring alumni athletes. And so little do you know, before I was an NFL cheerleader, if you didn't know that, I was for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers seasons, I believe, 2011 to 2013. I cheered in college at the great Bethune-Cookman University. And so they honored alumni athletes and we were able to go on the field this year. Such a different experience. And I understand why now. Not that I didn't understand before, but I was reminded as to the reason why I don't stay usually for the pep rally performances, because I am so accustomed to being on the field. Like field experience, there's nothing like it. And so we were able to see Plies, baby, Plies live. Now, granted, in college, y'all, I hated Plies. I could not. What's in my pocket, dog? Big face hundreds. Now, as an adult, as a grown woman, it really is the nostalgia of it all. Like when I hear that, I remember where I was. I remember rolling my eyes. Mind you, I'm originally from California, so I am very much so West Coast. I'm also a church girl, so I like chords. I like neo soul. I like but music that echoes the familiarity of the Black church. And so, yeah, I was like, what are y'all listening to? What is this? And then I grew up in Virginia, so definitely a different vibe than what I was used to when I moved down to the South. But now that I've been in the South for a while, when I hear these little Ply songs, I'm like, oh my goodness, just a screaming and singing. Like I've been a fan, child, not a fan, not one, but it is a great memory to remind me of my time at Cookman as a cheerleader. And so I was able to reunite with some of the alumni cheerleaders on the field and the current cheerleaders. And what was really cute is to know that some of the things that I had taught when I was captain, when I was when I was teaching some of the dances had been passed on. And to hear them say those things really made my heart smile, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like you remembered and they built upon it. But it was just beautiful to see a little piece of your legacy still remaining. And so that's always really, really cool. And so Friday was a vibe. Friday night was a bust because it really wasn't the event that we wanted to go to, but it was a good opportunity to get out, get dressed, and then see that it was a bust, and then go to bed. Then to me, the best moment of all, the tailgate. Y'all, from my understanding, this was the largest attended, right? And I think that has everything to do with our new president. He is really just making such great, drastic improvements to our institution. And I'm so excited for all the changes and the growth, especially in these times, right? With the president that we have and people not valuing what HBCUs are for our community and our culture. It's just a really, really big deal. And so nevertheless, it was the most attended, I believe, in a really long time. And it showed like there were people everywhere. But when I tell you, I never felt more safe, more covered from my community, from the Black men that were there. Because can we talk about Black men right now? Y'all came out. Y'all look good this year. Y'all was doing what y'all supposed to do. And the women, my gosh, down. We did that. Collectively, unified, we did that. And so it was just really, really good to see everybody hug on everybody's neck, the smile, the laughs. It was just great to bat your eyes a couple of times. It was just super, 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 super dope. And then last but not least, we went to my favorite event of the evening, which is R&B nights. And so, all the classics that I love to see and hear. It's my opportunity to get dressed up and, feel like a woman, that because that's what I'm here to do. Feel like that. Even when I don't feel like that. Well, let's be honest. When do I not feel like that? Okay. Nope. Never a time. There's never been a time in my life ever that I don't feel like a woman. Okay, that's what Cece said. Y'all seen that episode of Living Single? By far the best. So overall, my experience was phenomenal. And I credit all of that to the planning and preparation of BCUO. Like BCUO did a really good job with considering the demographic that you're servicing, right? Because our age group is like right in the middle. So we're not too old, but we're not super young. So there are certain experiences that we value. And so the age gap is a little bit vast. And so it's not too young where we're annoyed, but it's not too old where we're looking around like, who are these people, right? Because homecoming is only potent when you're around the people you went to school with, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I credit them for considering us and our needs and really valuing our perspectives and opinions and making sure there are events that we can go to where we are safe. I know for me, it is hard to be beautiful. It is hard to show up as myself. It is hard to have fun or want to go somewhere when I feel like, or when I'm unsure if I'm going to be safe, right? Like safety is a priority for me. And so they ensured that. Now, I would say the bad, there wasn't really too much bad for me. There wasn't too much bad for me, but there definitely wasn't ugly because, child, let me tell you, okay? So, and what's crazy is the ugly came from a guess. Now, if you don't know me, I do homecoming rules every year. Right. And so they're general rules that for those who go to HBCUs, you can apply to, but specifically for BCU. Right. And so I'm over here playing wingman to my, homegirl because she's talking to somebody, or I forgot if she was talking to somebody, somebody's talking to her. And we were just in the mix of something. She was getting something. And so this very tall 6'2" man that I'm not familiar with, we just end up in a casual conversation. And then it turns into like, oh, like, what do you do? Or I'm not from here, blah, blah, blah. Or let me get your number. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, no problem. Like I felt comfortable giving him my number. Note, that's growth on my part because I don't give people my number. We can swap social medias. I truly struggle with giving people my number. We'll talk about that on another day because this episode will be way too long. But let me just say this. Saying no keeps you safe. Come on, somebody. There's safety in no. Now, is that a trauma response? Maybe. But stop diagnosing me. Thank you. Anywho, give him my number. Boom, I go along my merry way. He goes along his. So I'm preparing for R&B nights and I get a text message like, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? They're texting me like, oh, what you about to do? Now, another rule. In the midst of homecoming, trying to figure out what people are doing is annoying. You don't do that, but how would he know he's a guest? You don't go here. So of course you wouldn't know that. So of course it's taking me a minute to reply back and I'm feeling like you're trying to jump into the plans. Like you don't know the vibe because you don't go here. You just doing a lot. You don't go here. Now wouldn't be the time to do that because I'm in the midst of a reunion. I'm in the midst of a reunion. Right? So you're not really my priority because I just met you. Nevertheless, I get to him when I get to him. And so I'm already at the event, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, oh yeah, R&B, whatever, boom, boom. He then proceeds to say, oh yeah, go and get drunk so I can do nasty things to you. Did you just invite me to sexual assault? Because when I tell you I blocked that man so fast, I said, oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Guys, at no point in time should you encourage a woman to be under the influence so that you can do something nasty to them. Number one, what it implies is that you can't have them to do something nasty to you when they're in sober mind. Let me say that again because I stutter a bit. If you've got to coerce a woman or have them under the influence to do something nasty with you and or to you, you really ain't got it like that. Because what's with the coercion? Why can't you get that in sober mind? Oh, and number two, please. I would say, who do you think I am? But you don't know that yet because you don't know me. Why? Because you're trying to lay down all this nasty foolery within hours of meeting. Again, what do I expect? You don't go here. And that's what you get for entangling with people who do not go here. So that block happened real quick. I mean, as in rápidamente, quick. And so, yeah, I caught up with a couple of people, had a good night, and overall was just grateful for the experience. I'm not going to say not ugly. Here's a bad, because I said that there wasn't a bad. Here's a bad. Sometimes at homecoming, you will forget that it is homecoming, and you have to remember you got to go back to the real world. And some of these feelings, some of these encounters, you have to remember aren't actually plausible, right? Like this cannot happen because Gina, things have changed. And realizing that at homecoming is a bummer, especially for somebody like myself who has to go back to a reality that consists of minimal diversity, right? Like I'm in a space where I represent my culture heavily as a millennial Black woman, and as a Black woman in general, because sometimes the representation is a little bit older. Nothing wrong with that, but their idea of who Black women are, I quote, wigs, misaligned, all the things. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but it does create narratives and stereotypes about my culture that I constantly have to dispel. And I never want to be categorized as the good Negro. Oh, she's one of the good ones. No, I'm a part of that spectrum with them, right? And so constantly having the weight of the culture on your shoulders, having to prove myself constantly is overwhelming. And so this homecoming, I was really wrapped up in it. I was appreciating the love. I was appreciating all of it. And then I came home empty, which is a lesson in and of itself, that attention is a silent killer if you don't know how to manage it. That's a word. Attention is a silent killer if you don't know how to manage it. You hear me? Okay, so that's why you got to be rooted and booted in the Lord, truly, because you will find yourself chasing that high. And it's crazy because we think of highs in relation to like drugs or sex or alcohol, usually, or addictions of some kind. Attention addictions are a thing, and it can be perpetuated via social media as well. And so it was one of those things I was like, whoa. It's clear that, number one, I need to go out more because Lord knows, like I said before, I am team no and which is another conversation for another day. But let me chill, let me relax. And so, that's my BCU homecoming summary and the end of segment 1, all things for the culture. So, as of late, I have been reading Romans. I'm a part of a Bible study group every Monday, and we're in John, but personally, I've been in Romans, and I've tried to read the whole book of Romans, but every time I start, I get so caught up in chapters 1 and 2 because there's so many nuggets. Like Romans in and of itself is just the GOAT when it comes to one-liners. You know what I'm saying? There's so many of your favorite scriptures that people frequent in their messages, but even on social media that come from Romans that you might not even be familiar with. Long story long, as many of you guys know or may not know, Romans is written by Paul to the Romans. And so in my reading, I stumbled upon Romans 2 verses 28 and 29. I finished Romans 1 and now I'm in 2. And it made me think about the recent renouncing of from Pastor Travis Green from Kappa Alpha Psi. And let me tell you, after looking at his video, I agree 100%. 1,000% agree with his reason for renouncing. In fact, I applaud any person who denounces because it's the right thing to do. If you're doing exactly what Scripture says you're doing it, finding that your identity, you're looking for identity through entities like Black Greek letter organizations, and those organizations have the crown of your heart. And you're probably wondering, okay, Monica, what does any of this have to do with Romans 2:28? So read Romans for yourself, but more specifically, when I got to Romans 2:28, it says, "For a person is not a Jew who is one outwardly. Rather, a person is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is of the heart by spirit." And the reason why that mattered to me is because oftentimes when people are defending their reasons for leaving a Black Greek letter organization, it's centered around the rituals, right? And so when I look at those types of things, I consider how that ideology plays out throughout the rest of the world, right? Because if it only applies to one thing, it's safe to say that this isn't a truth, but more so a theory, right? I believe truth has consistencies. I looked at that scripture and I hear the rumblings of people talking about why they renounce. It's centered around the rituals, which I completely agree and understand. But when I read Romans 2:28, it confirmed for me a couple of things. confirmed, for me a couple of things. Number one, that if outward rituals like circumcision does not define your relationship with Christ, that also means that rituals with nuance don't define your relationship with Christ. Track with me. Because your relationship with Christ is not contingent upon outward practices, but a circumcision of the heart. And so if you are a part of a Black Greek letter organization and you're going through rituals, which as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated are symbolic, not spiritually, culturally, right? Then it's safe to say that this entity becoming an idol has everything to do with the condition of your heart. In the same way the Jews believed because they were circumcised, they were called. When Christ is actually looking for your heart to change. And so when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh. And I want to break down some of the points that I found here in my research, that external actions don't determine internal allegiance. God measures the heart and not the ritual. Now, again, hear what I'm saying and don't interpret what you want to believe. I believe that denouncing needs to happen for many because it's clear that your identity, the attention, the validation that comes with joining some of these organizations is unhealthy for some because who they are, what they do, how they show up in the world, it's tied up into this Greek letter organization. You don't even know who they are outside of that, right? And so if this organization does not just expand your mind, expand your purpose, and expand who God has called you to be, right? Just like anything, like your job should not be your identity. Watch this. Your significant other and or marital status should not define who you are because many of us need to denounce marriage too. Not too much on me because I know I'm cooking. Question is, are you ready to eat? You know what? Corny, yet cute. But you hear me. We need to denounce relationships because my gosh, who would you be if everything about you or if marriage was gone? Would you have anything to share? My God, today. So again, it's about the circumcision of the heart. And it's really interesting because in Romans chapter 1, it talks about people being lovers of themselves, giving up unnatural desires for, giving up natural desires for unnatural desires, unforgiveness, bitterness, lying, adultery, all the things. But what's so interesting is that the beginning of the book starts with greetings, right? Starts with an apology because Paul is out ministering to people who don't know the truth because the Romans do. They're familiar with the word. So my bad, I couldn't get to y'all. But y'all notice I had to go find those that were lost and haven't heard the word. And so now when it's time to get to the meat and potatoes, the first thing that is the root or the catalyst to the idolatry, the lovers of themselves, the unnatural connections and the like is lack of gratitude and lack of acknowledgement of Jesus Christ. Because you can't manipulate Jesus Christ, you turn to the birds of the air and the fowl of the earth. It starts there. Then from there, you start to behave in a way that is unnatural in all ways. Unforgiveness, greed, envy, jealousy. So much so that God will give you over to your desires, which bleeds over to chapter 2, which is all about the Jews who believe they're the ones. If you believe that you are a carrier of this word, and I'm summarizing Romans 2, a carrier of the word, and you're telling people not to steal, are you still stealing? Because the Gentiles are saying they learn these practices from you. And then as you continue to read, those last 2 verses in chapter 2 is what brought me to this conclusion about Black Greek letter organizations, which is this. If it has the crown and throne of your heart, you need to denounce. If it has defined who you are, you need to denounce. That is idolatry. Track with me. If that marriage, if chasing, right hand, chasing, you need to denounce. If that job, you need to denounce. If every time you wake up, you got to run to the phone, you need to denounce. Whatever has the throne of your heart that's preventing you from drawing closer to Christ, you need to let it go. And that's not because of something I want to have happen. It's what the book says. And so some key distinctions that we need to consider. Number one is that a ritual does not create allegiance. Allegiance is revealed by the heart. So similar to what I just said, are you more passionate, organized, ready to go to chapter meeting than you are showing up for your local assembly in prayer and Bible study? Where the heart, because if you can prepare for that, surely you can prepare for the things of God. Some other key distinctions that I want you to consider is that external rituals is something to do, right? But internal allegiance is someone I belong to. And so in the same way, when we were growing up, and I got this from Willie Moore Jr., when we stood up and pledged allegiance to the flag, it's something to do. It's a ritual. But I belong to Jesus Christ. The same way I can ritually go to an Indian restaurant. It's something to do. My allegiance is still to Christ. The same way I ritually get my nails done, and most of the people working there are Buddhist. It's something to do. But my allegiance is to Jesus Christ. Always has been, always will be. And so this is an important conversation because the body of Christ is at war on things that are clear in the Bible. And the truth is, it's imperative that we understand, as for me and my house, because our houses look different, it doesn't necessarily mean if your house isn't like my house, you know the Lord more than I do. It's giving very much so the Jews versus the Gentiles. It's very much so giving all the C's, Pharisees, Sadducees. Why are you eating on Saturday? It's a celebration. That's why. Okay. And so I'm never condemning or bad mouthing anybody who chooses to do that, because in the same way that I would applaud somebody who needs to pull back off of social media, pull back on relationships and dating. If you need to pull back on that Greek letter organization for your soul salvation, you better do that in Jesus' name. Because at the end of the day gonna end. There's that. But also, Christ is King and Lord. Another variable that I want to present, and I talked about this on my TikTok, is this. We have to understand that humans are flawed. But for Black Greek letter organizations specifically, you have to think to yourself, and this isn't an original thought. A friend of mine shared this with me years ago. It was actually his brother's thought, that Black Greek letter organizations are just structures, but they were made for survival. So ask yourself, why would people in the middle of a civil rights era where we're fighting for freedoms against white oppressors, would we create organizations where we worship white gods and white entities? Think about that. Just think. It doesn't align and it doesn't make sense, because these structures served and continue to serve as ways for us to uplift our communities. We are privately funded. We're the reasons why many of our people can get into college. We're the reason why many of our communities, these smaller communities, are fed. So the external ritual is not a sign of what's going on in the heart, in the same way that many of you raise your hand and robobobo shanda and have the cloaks on. That's not a sign of your relationship with Christ, because you still talk about the immigrant nasty. You still talk about those that are in the LGBTQ community in a nasty way. The way in which you maneuver in the world is nasty. You know, the people that Jesus was popping off in the Bible, same with Paul, those that knew better. He popped off to those who knew better. Y'all are just nasty to people, period. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't show. Circumcision of the heart. Of the heart. And so, yeah, I hope that's well received. I hope y'all got that. I hope it wasn't too repetitive or redundant or, too rambly. But I did want to share that because I did do a post on it on my socials, and quite a few people's response were centered around rituals. Rituals are a part of life. The question is your heart in it? Do you understand external rituals are something to do? That a ritual and allegiance are two different things? And if you can't separate the two, that's okay. But don't project your inability to do something as somebody else's burden. Because although it's true for you, it's not true for everyone. Until next time, take care.